Last night, President Joe Biden spoke frankly about the threat facing America when it comes to the anti-democratic movement on the right. Listen to this.
But as I stand here tonight, equality and democracy are under assault. We do ourselves no favor to pretend otherwise. So tonight, I've come to this place where it all began to speak as plainly as I can to the nation. Too much of what's happening in our country today is not normal. Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic.
That's all true, needs to be said. It also needs to be added, as he did immediately after that statement, that he is not referring to every Republican or even a majority of Republicans, says they are not part of this movement. He is talking about the most extreme anti-democratic part of this movement. That clarification will of course be lost on all of the right wingers who will absolutely lose their minds over this, but we'll get to that. I wanna give you a little bit more because he turns to one of the most important parts of this, having to do with the movement, what it represents, and what we need to accept about it. Let's listen to that.
And about the incredible future that lies in front of us if only we choose it. We must never forget, we the people are the true heirs of the American experiment, the Great Depression, world wars, civil rights. That sacred flame still burns. Now in our time, as we build an America that is more prosperous, free and just. That is the work of my presidency, a mission I believe in with my whole soul. But first, we must be honest with each other and with ourselves.
So there you also hear a part of the speech. There's a through line in the speech that will not get discussed really at all in the the fight over how unacceptable this speech was. He was laying out a positive vision. He was talking about what his presidency has accomplished, especially recently. He did sketch out a positive path forward, but as a nation, we're gonna move past that. It's just gonna be the attacks, I guess. But anyway, we have more lines from it. There was a lot of good stuff, especially for a Biden speech from this. And we'll get to the freak out later. But Brett, what did you make of this?
So it's deliberate. Everything he's doing is deliberate and timed specifically. They really have put together, for better or for worse, they put together a solid timeline for having momentum going into the midterms. And that's one thing that as they look at Joe Biden is not typically that inspiring a human being. He's leaning into not only the things that he's accomplished, but also the things that got him there. And one big analysis you should have from the 2020 election is that Joe Biden won by picking off picking off moderates in the suburbs to just not show up for Donald Trump. And also he motivated people that wouldn't otherwise take arms against the sea of stupidity that Donald Trump is. And so that's what he's doing. Those are the two things that he's doing, not only in this speech, which is well timed, less picked up than other speeches he's given and events that have happened in prime time, but still he is calling out Trump as a fascist. He is passing bills and legislation that theoretically, and is, as long as he markets it right, help Americans move forward. And he's calling out Trump for being a piece of garbage and scaring people out of it. Yeah,
100%. Yeah, and look, we'll get into the stuff like whether we agree with his message. They're more about the warning, but I want to give you a little bit more of it. Some of his quotes: democracy cannot survive when one side believes there are only two outcomes to an election. Either they win or they were cheated. And that's where MAGA Republicans are today. So cry all you want, right wingers, about him identifying that. It is 100% true, indisputable at this point. How many Republicans have refused to accept the 2020 election? How many Republicans have refused to accept literally any election since then? How many Republicans who lost in Republican-only primaries say that their election was stolen from? It is just, that is the baseline for candidates to make those claims and for far too many Republican voters to accept them without any evidence whatsoever. That is not a sustainable thing for a democracy. But he goes on to say, in terms of violence, I want to say this plain and simple, there is no place for political violence in America, period, none, ever. We can't be pro-insurrectionist and pro-American. They are incompatible. And that is true. And it needs to be, people need to be reminded because it's become too normalized, we've become too used to it. And he almost calls out an individual in this next line saying, there are public figures predicting and all but calling for mass violence and rioting in the streets. This is inflammatory, this is dangerous, this is against the rule of law. And we the people must say that this is not who we are. And there, of course, he is talking about Lindsey Graham, but I guess they're still kind of buddies, so he can't say exactly who he means. In this particular case, I don't know that it matters all that much, but this is what we're seeing. We're gonna get to some video a little bit later on where they continue to do that, predicting violence, and we need to stand against it.
Yeah, I mean, it all goes into, I guess, probably pivoting to the next part of what we're gonna talk about, but you can judge the effectiveness of a speech, or at least the intention of a speech, and to a large part, its effectiveness, by which part of the speech the opposition gloms onto. And none of them are really glomming onto the substance of it, the hope of it, the declarations of success within it, but rather are focusing on the aesthetics of it and potentially this, and clutching their pearls at the mere fact that Joe Biden called out reality for what it is, which is people on the right have on the Donald Trump wing of the Republican Party, which is much bigger than any other wing of the Republican Party, have gone to crazy town. And that crazy town is right, has a lot of guns in it. And Joe Biden, when we do talk about that, the aesthetics of it, I feel like maybe Biden overstepped with like having Marines in the background, but by and large, I think they're consistently delivering on a message, which is that the MAGA wing of the Republican Party has lost it and should not be followed. And if you're a Republican sitting within that wing of the party, do not feel bad about these instincts you have that Donald Trump is ruining the country by saying that all elections are bogus unless he wins.
For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.